Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Revisiting Epcot. This is a series in which I go around Epcot and I pick an attraction and I give a 100% subjective opinion on how I think Disney can go about taking that attraction and really making it all it can be and sort of really encapsulating the spirit of Epcot and Future World, because I feel like as great as Epcot it is, and as much as it is my favorite park in Walt Disney World, I feel like it could do even better at, being what Walt wanted out of, sort of the spirit and ideals of Future World. So we've talked about some attractions. Today we're going to talk about one that is very dear to my heart, or at least the pavilion is, and we are going to be talking about Mission Space. Now, Mission Space, of course, wasn't always there. It used to be Horizons, and I have a video that sort of explains what Mission Space is in full, and hopefully soon or one day I will have a video about the history of Horizons, which was the attraction that took its place. What I want to talk about today is what we can do to Mission Space, I think, to make it more deserving of being a Future World attraction. We're walking over there right now here on MC Magic. Now, a brief overview of Mission Space, if you don't want to know the whole detailed history, is that it is essentially a ride simulator that uses a spinning motion similar to basically any sort of flight simulator that you'd see at NASA to recreate the illusion of a rocket takeoff and landing. And the idea is you're taking a rocket ship to Mars, where you're gonna, I guess, live and work, and of course Gary Sinise is the one who sort of guides you there. And what it basically is you walk through this pre-flight show, you watch a video, you get in this simulator where you watch a video of this takeoff while it's spinning to sort of simulate the gravitational forces that you'd feel on a takeoff, and then all the sort of shaking that would go into a landing, and then that's sort of it. Then you pop out. Now, what was there before it was a slow ride talking about the possible ways you could live in the future. They were very different attractions. I'm not going to be one of those people, I'm a huge fan of Horizons. I love it. But I'm not going to be one of those people who thinks that we should just bring Horizons back. In fact, that goes against the whole concept of Disney. The whole idea of this park is that it's always changing, always evolving. However, I don't think Mission Space is currently living up to, the sort of standards of what Future World is all about. Future World is supposed to be a place where you're excited not with physical thrills, but with intellectual thrills, thinking about the future, what life could be like for us, not in the far future, but in the near future. And I don't think this ride really does it, because all it really does is give you the physical thrill of taking off in a rocket ship. Now, we're in the queue right now. The reason I hang out here is because I actually think this piece of the queue scenery is my favorite part of the entire attraction, which is saying something. Now, what this is a circular space station that, of course, would be in orbit around something, whether it's the moon, Mars, Earth, and it would rotate to simulate gravity. Everything would, like those, you see how the table's at the bottom here, and you'd have stuff at the top there. It's on the outside because when it rotates, it simulates gravity. This is just a short look at what life might be like if we were to live in space, because you'd want to simulate gravity so that, we don't lose bone density. And I think this is exciting because this is the sort of thing where I would look at and I would take in all the detail and I would think about what it could mean for our future if we had something like this up there someday. And I think what we've got now, which is just sort of a flight simulator, doesn't really do that very much, especially because what it does is it takes the 8 or 9 month journey that it would take to fly from Earth to Mars and compresses it down into this pseudo scientific cryogenic sleep. And that's unfortunate because you're skipping over the most exciting part of a trip to Mars, which is being in space going to Mars. It really just does the launch and the landing, which you can kind of sort of replace the rocket ship with a plane that lands and takes off pretty, rockily. And is rockily a word? And that would sort of be the same situation. So here's what I think we should do to Mission Space to make it a little bit more true to Future World. We're not going to ride it right now. Again, I have an episode up that sort of details the history of this ride and has a ride through. I would take out the ride simulator aspect. Let's keep the theme. Let's keep it mission to Mars, living on Mars. That's, I think, a future that we're going to see one day. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So let's keep that theme, keep it singular, but let's show off what it's like living there, what it's like getting there, and not just taking off, but like, what is it like when a family has to live on a spaceship for 9 months? Because we don't have cryogenic sleep. So if we send people to Mars, they will be awake and living and waking up and spending their days and going to bed in space for, months and months and months just to get there. What's that going to be like? Show me that. Show me what it's like when we get there. There's so many scientific hurdles that we're going to run into when we live on Mars that I would be really interested in seeing. Just, a handful. How would we deal with them? How would we deal with radiation? Would we have some sort of protective dome over, a city? Would we have underground places to live? What's that going to be like? I think that's more exciting than, a spinning simulator. So, of course, that would sort of mean replacing it with sort of a slower ride, and that probably wouldn't be that wouldn't be received very well for people who are into thrill rides. But then again, I feel like as a thrill ride, Mission Space doesn't really cut it anyway if you compare it to, like, a real thrill ride like a roller coaster or, something more extreme like that. What I think would be great is to make this attraction more of a spiritual successor to Horizons, especially in the, not just in the idea of looking at the future and what the future would be like, but in the sense of the interactivity. Horizons was, I think, one of the first attractions to really fully embrace interactivity, because at the end, you'd see 3 views of the future: underwater, in space, and in the desert, and you sort of pick which one you wanted to go back through. And you would see this interactive movie. Well, it wasn't an interactive movie. It was just a movie, but you were picking the movie you were going to see at the end. And considering that this ride was made in the 80s, I think that was very future facing. So let's do that again. Let's add some interactivity. Maybe, have this attraction address multiple aspects of living on Mars and let you explore which ones you're going to see. Take it a step further, and let's get those magic bands integrated somehow. Now imagine if, rather than seeing, a family living on Mars, what if it was your family living on Mars? Imagine if, one of the sort of scenes that the ride takes you through is what a home unit on Mars would look like. Now imagine if the magic band picked up your information. Maybe it's tied to a Facebook account, right? Because everything's tied to Facebook these days. So what it does, in my mind, in this magic ride, is it takes that data that says, okay, this is John Smith on Facebook. Let's pull up all of John Smith's photos, or a handful of photos, and populate them in these digital photo frames in this next scene. And all of a sudden, it's not some random family's home on Mars. It's your home on Mars because you have all your family photos there. Or just something with your name on it, or just something that's personalized to you, so that it sort of really adds this personal touch to the entire attraction. And then you could, even throw in, references to Horizons through either the details or just through the fact that you have that same style of picking an interactive movie. Imagine if, like, the ride vehicle itself was a small simulator. Not one that spins to create G-force, but maybe one that shakes around and moves on multiple axes. And so maybe you can pick how you would get home or where you would go. Maybe the next trip would be to the moon or Earth or somewhere else on Mars, and it takes you through an adventure. So it does add a little bit of that sort of physical thrill, but for the most part, I think we need to get people excited about going to Mars, not just with robots like we're doing now with Curiosity, but with people, because that's really going to inspire people to get into science, and science is going to lead to better, discoveries and inventions and technology, and it leads to a better world. And I think that sort of excitement, while it doesn't sound exciting on paper when you compare it to, like, a flight simulator, I think at the end of the day it would be very popular. I mean, just look at Horizons and how loved it is, even though it's been gone for so long. That love isn't because it's, an exciting ride. That love was because there were a lot of memories there, and a lot of memories come from the fact that it was very memorable. And that's what you get when you have something that's very intellectually stimulating. So that's just like a quick look at what I would do with Mission Space. I would keep the theming. We're still going to Mars. Let's keep Gary Sinise in there, because why not? He's America's hero. And but really, put a new focus on living on Mars, not just getting to Mars and add some more interactivity that would really personalize the whole experience. Again, this is 100% subjective. I'm not talking about rumors. I'm not talking about things they are thinking of doing. This is purely just out of my head what in my dream Epcot, you would see. And what I want to hear from you guys is what would you want to see in your dream mission space? Maybe you want to see it perfectly exactly how it is now. Don't change a thing. Maybe you want to see Horizons brought back, or maybe you want to see just something completely different. Let me know in the comments. I love hearing ideas. I think that sort of talk is great. As much as I love Disney and as much as I trust all the Imagineers to create great experiences, I think there's a lot that comes out of the sort of brainstorming that fans could have just talking about attractions and what they love about them. And who knows, you might hear an idea that you fall in love with, and maybe your Imagineer stumbles by it, and maybe something ends up somewhere one day. Wouldn't that be great? In any case, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it. There, we can see it in the background. And I hope to see you all here next time for the next episode of Revisiting Epcot. Bye, everybody.